Hello, my name is Matthias and welcome to the FPL Scope and my team selection video for Game Week 26. But as always, before we get into my plans for Game Week 26, we have to take a look at a couple of things. Firstly, we have to talk about my Game Week 25 score. Then we're going to talk about my free hit suggestion from last week, Game Week 25, and see how that did compared to my score especially. Then we're going to have our free hit suggestion for Game Week 26. And then after that, we're also going to talk about the manager of the week in the FPL Scope mini league, because I didn't manage to do that in the FPL Scope podcast yesterday. So I'm going to cover that today in this video. So that means we have a lot to go through. So let's just get started. That's what I was trying to say with my Game Week 25 score. And it was a really good game week, 101 points, -4. The -4 points from the transfer, which I really regret right now. Palmer to De Bruyne. I mean, I don't really regret the decision, but I do regret the result, because I did think De Bruyne would have a lot more points to show for this game. And he is also going to play against Bournemouth next game. And I think he's pretty good for the future as well, if he gets to play, that is. But I'm just not sure about his minutes going forward. He also didn't play in the second game of the double game week, so really unsure about that. At the same time, I really wish I had Palmer still, not for Game Week 26, but for Game 27 and 28 especially, and then also from Game Week 30 onwards. I think Palmer is going to be really good. So I'm already looking to bring him back in for a bit of a hit in terms of transfer fees as well, because I sold him for around 5.4 and now he costs about 5.8. So yeah, big loss in general, especially with the points, -4. Another bad -4 for me in the past 4 or 5 game weeks. I've done just a couple of mistakes that have cost me, but I'm still 44k in the world just about, with 1,576 points, only 31 points behind the top 10k. So I'm in a good position, but it could have been so much better. I think I could have been within the top 10k especially, or maybe even higher than that if I had just played my cards right from wildcard Game Week 20 and after that as well. But yeah, speaking of chips, my wildcard, I still have my second wildcard intact, but I don't have my triple captaincy chip anymore because I used it on Haaland. He got 30 points, which I guess is not the best, but at the same time, it's not a complete waste either. He at least got a goal, so 10 points times 3. You were expecting more from Haaland in those 2 games, and to be honest, he should have had a lot more as well. So again, the decision, I don't really regret it. Maybe there'll be a really good double captaincy or double captain, triple captaincy option later on in the season. Maybe we'll even get a triple game week for some team. I don't know. That could happen, but I don't really regret using the triple captaincy chip on Haaland for a double game week against Brentford and Chelsea at home, when he created more than enough chances to score enough goals to have a really good impact as my triple captaincy player. But still, 30 points, I'll take it. It's better than nothing. And to be honest, I didn't really think that much about the triple captaincy and how well Haaland did or not, because yeah, most people just triple captain Haaland, so I didn't feel like it was that big of a differential anyway. It didn't really matter that much for my rank that Haaland did well or not. So yeah, that is basically whatever. I don't really care that much about what Haaland did. But other than that, actually, compared to Haaland, I actually cared a lot more about Solanke versus Dubravka in the game between Bournemouth and Newcastle, because I decided to bench Dubravka because I thought Areola would have a slightly better chance of getting a good result, and also because Dubravka was playing against Solanke, who I had to start this game week. And that ended up being a really good decision. Not necessarily the goalkeeper decision, but Solanke, just keeping him has been sort of like a thing that I have been thinking about changing him up for a couple of game weeks and then bringing him back in for Game 28. But really glad that I kept him because he got a gifted goal from Dubravka. Dubravka actually saved 2 of the Solanke's huge chances before the first goal for Solanke that game. So it looked like one of those game weeks where everything was going to go the wrong way, with Solanke missing all his chances and Dubravka getting a lot of saves. But luckily for me, Dubravka slipped and lost his clean sheet, and he lost it to Solanke, who scored and then even got an assist and 3 bonus points on top of that. So 12 points for Solanke, amazing. 13 points for Watkins as well. Really happy that I kept Watkins and Saka all this time, because there were times this season, even the last few game weeks, where I had some doubts about them. Not the last few game weeks, the last couple game weeks, Watkins and Saka have been really good. But around game week 18, game week 22 range, people were kind of getting tired of Saka and Watkins, and some people even sold them, and they're now paying the price for that because they have been just absolutely amazing the last few game weeks. Gabriel as well, really happy about him. 6 points for him, as always. Really dependable. Kind of wish I had another Arsenal player, and probably not going to bring in an Arsenal player in the immediate future. So yeah, we'll see about that. Maybe I'll bring in someone from Arsenal. That's still potentially in my mind, but yeah, we'll get to my plans for Game 26 at the end of this video. But still, final wrap up for Game 25. Obviously, the City guys, Foden and De Bruyne, just blanking in 2 games in a row. I talked about De Bruyne already, not playing the second game. Foden Missed a huge chance against Brentford. Again, don't really regret having Foden and playing him. I still think he's a good asset. Diogo Jota getting injured, obviously not the best for me, but at the same time, I'm sort of happier with Jota and Darwin both not returning rather than both returning, because I think Darwin was like a massive negative for me this game week. So kind of lucky for me that Darwin missed out on both games practically. He scored a goal in the first game, but then got injured during halftime and then didn't play in the second game, which was actually pretty good for me. Watkins and Solanke as my strikers instead, so pretty happy about that. And finally, my last Liverpool player, Virgil van Dijk, who I brought in for Trent Alexander-Arnold this game week. He got 10 points, really happy about that, but at the same time, he could add so much more this game week. He probably could have had a clean sheet in both games. Luton had a kind of weird goal scored. Brentford did create enough chances to get a goal there, but for a long time, it looked like Liverpool were actually going to get the clean sheet, but then they conceded in the end from the Reguilon Tony double chance. But apart from that as well, Virgil van Dijk could have had an assist in the first game, could have had a goal in the first game, hit the bar with the final shot of the game basically, and he could have had a second goal as well in the second game, because he scored a goal but also could have scored another one. We had a pretty free header in the box, which was saved by Kaminski, but if Van Dijk had scored that one, he would have gotten 6 points for the goal, and he probably would have had the 3 bonus points rather than 0 bonus points as well, so he would have scored 9 more points from that. So it could have been an absolutely massive double game week score for Virgil van Dijk, and we're pretty used to that at this point, because Van Dijk has been a really good double game week player in general, and that's kind of the appeal for me bringing him in. I know it's not really like it's more like superstition than anything to bring in someone who's been good in double game weeks before, but I don't know, it seemed to have worked at least for Virgil van Dijk. So really happy about his 10 points and 101 points total. Really happy about that in general. So let's move on to my free hit selection for Game Week 25, my free hit suggestion, I should say. And it did not do as quite as well as this team. To just go with the positives first, at least I had the foresight to still keep my Arsenal players in this draft, because I know a lot of people just went completely double game week players on their free hit drafting Game Week 25 and scored even less points because they didn't have the likes of Saka and Gabriel and Ryak. So at least I got 27 points from those 3 guys at least. But apart from that, I don't really know why I had Konate. I probably had enough money to do Virgil van Dijk as well. I think I just had enough money, but I think I sort of just put Konate as an option there for anyone with not as much of a budget as me. So obviously Van Dijk would have been a much better option, because Konate played only 1 game and got 2 points from it. So yeah, pretty bad from him. Apart from that, the team is pretty similar, apart from my own team, apart from obviously Raya and goal, and then the strikers, obviously. I did mention Darwin Núñez, how I was pretty happy that he didn't score because I didn't have him in my own team, but for my free hit draft suggestion, it would have done a lot better if Darwin was able to play in both the second half of the first game and then in the second game, because Liverpool created so many chances, scored so many goals. Darwin could have had a lot of chances to score and miss, to be honest. He probably would have had a couple goals or a couple points at least more in FPL if he had been able to play both games. So pretty bad luck there. Also with Ivan Toney, he also had a double game week. Wasn't the best double game week, 2 pretty difficult matches, I would say, against Liverpool and Man City, obviously. Still scored a goal against Liverpool, so not too bad in that regard at least. But he obviously didn't score as many points as Solanke either. So 73 points in general. Also, seeing as it is a free hit draft, you can't free hit and triple captain at the same time. So obviously the captaincy on Holland would just be a normal captaincy. But in this instance, if you free hit it in Game Week 25 and you still have your triple captaincy chip left, then maybe that's the silver lining you have from this game week, because I don't think the free hit for most people was that good this game week, and it wasn't that good for me either. The suggestion, it would have been around a game week rank of 4.3 million, or 4.4 million even, which is not the best. So yeah, not the best free hit draft that I've had, but at the same time, you sort of had to go with a lot of double game week players. I actually went light on the double game week players compared to other free hit drafts that I saw from other people, other content creators. So I'm happy that I at least had Saka and had his 15 points for the free hit draft. For anyone that looked at my video and used it for their own free hit draft, if that happened, I don't know. Let me know if you did and how annoyed you are. And potentially what you're looking to triple captain in the future. Are you triple captaining Solanke in Game Week 28, the first and best opportunity, now that Solanke is looking pretty good again? Or are you saving it for later on in the season where you might get a solid double game week again, potentially, or maybe even a whole on double game week again? I don't know exactly what's going to happen with the double game weeks later on in the season, but yeah, it would be interesting to see if there's any other really good double captaincy, triple captaincy shouts later on in the season at least. But yeah, that's my free draft for Game Week 25. Let's take a look at my suggestion for a free hit on Game Week 27 if you are currently looking at that possibility. So I think this is a kind of tough game week to free hit. Obviously, that's usually what it is with the blank game weeks. That's what we're going to see in Game Week 29 as well. Not going to be a lot of options. There are quite a few options still, though, this game week, because there are only, four teams blanking this game week. So we still have a lot of teams to choose from, and there are some pretty good matches as well. So as you can see, I've tried to target Wolverhampton against Sheffield United with Ait-Nouri and Hwang Hee-chan, 2 players that I'm really considering bringing into my own team as well for this game week. I think they are going to be really good in that game. I've also doubled up with defenders from Crystal Palace, or 1 defender and 1 goalkeeper, or 2 goalkeepers even. I have Johnston and Henderson just in case Johnston doesn't start this game. Because Johnston was back starting now with the new manager, Glasner, who wasn't in charge of the last game, but he was back and probably had a hand in the team selection because they did play with wingbacks and stuff. And Johnston was in goal, so I expect Johnston to still be the goalkeeper for Crystal Palace going forward. They also, like I said, set up with the wingbacks, so that is really good news for Munoz, who's the new right back. Finally, Crystal Palace got a right back after all this time with Joel Ward on right back. They finally have a proper right back to take the reins there at Crystal Palace. And Munoz actually has a really good track record when it comes to goals and assists in the past. Playing in, I think he played in Eredivisie, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe I'm mistaken. But either way, he has a lot of goals and assists in the past. But he also has quite a few yellow cards as well, which is kind of putting me off a little bit of buying him myself for my own team. But perfect fixture against Burnley at home this game week. I mean, not perfect because Burnley do score goals from time to time. They do create a lot of chances, at least with Fofana and stuff. But I think Munoz is someone that could be a really hidden gem, especially for the future, especially if you're looking, obviously if the free hit draft is just for this game week, but if you're looking at a longer term perspective and potentially having a team up until double game week 34, Munoz might be a really good option because I think he is pretty likely to have a pretty good double in game week 34 as well. So he might be a pretty good and early transfer you can get because I think he could explode and have a lot of goals and assists and potentially clean sheets with Crystal Palace, at least historically being a pretty good defensive team with some pretty good defensive players. So I think Munoz is a pretty interesting shout. Then I've tripled up with Arsenal players, Gabriel in defense. I just think I'm going to do that every free draft basically because I think Arsenal are the best defense in the league. Gabriel is the best attacking centre-back from set pieces in the league. And yeah, I just love Gabriel Magalhaes, and I'm never going to bench him again like I did in Game Week 24. Massive mistake for me at that point. Obviously, you need to have Saka after his red-hot form lately, and I've tripled up with Trossard as well as my final Arsenal player. I think long-term, I think Ødegaard is the better pick, and I think he might even be a better pick for Game 26, but I think you just have to take the chance on Trossard now that he's still going to play another game as like sort of the de facto striker for Arsenal in the absence of Gabriel Jesus, who's probably not back for this game week either. So I think there are some pretty good points to be had from Trossard, who's been really good the last few game weeks. I think he's had like a return in the last 3 games, so he's looking really good as well, tripling up with Arsenal. He'll also double up with Man City again. Foden and Haaland again getting the nod for my team. Bournemouth away, it's not the worst game in the world. Last time they played Bournemouth, they beat them 6-1. And granted, Bournemouth are a bit better now than they were back then, but still, Man City is our team. Our team. I don't know the grammar there correctly. Man City are a team, I would say, that could score a lot of goals against anyone. Basically, they are a good team against pretty much anyone. So Haaland and Foden, Haaland as the captaincy shout. I still think Haaland is a pretty good captain. Was a disappointing triple captain choice, but at the same time, he had more than enough chances to basically score a lot of points. So yeah, I think he has a decent chance to score a lot of goals against Bournemouth as well. Then we have Ollie Watkins, so I think he's just an amazing pick all around, whether it's Game Week 26, whether it is for anyone that's free hitting in 29, he's still a good pick. If you're not free hitting in Game Week 29, he's pretty much essential because he is probably the best player to have in Game Week 29, apart or at least between Game Week 26 and 29, that plays in both game weeks. Nottingham Forest at home is a really, really good fixture. So in general, I really like Watkins as well for this free draft. And finally, we're going with a bit of a different striker in Højlund compared to all the Solanke and Tony shouts that are in the usual teams. I think Højlund has a really good chance of scoring a lot of points in this game week against Fulham. And yes, he doesn't have a game week 29 fixture yet, but on a free hit, you don't really have to care about that either. So Højlund makes the team as well. And then finally, in the free draft, we have Henderson as the backup goalkeeper, Pascal Gross, who I was really close to having in the team actually, and then Dawson and Dalot wrapping up the whole team. And with the free drafts out of the way, let's move on to the manager of the week, which is this week none other than Kalin Farfarov, who I think is Bulgarian. So Congrats to you, 112 points, which is a great score, obviously, and that's why you are the manager of the week, because you finished the top of the leaderboard for the FPL Scope Mini League this week, and that means that you get featured on usually the podcast, which was yesterday, but since I wasn't able to fit into the podcast, I'm going to talk about your team now in the team selection video as well. So 112 points, really massive score. A couple of the old players that we've talked about in Gabriel, Saka, Watkins, Haaland, triple captaincy for Haaland, obviously. Gordon with 8 points, which is a new player. He did really well for Newcastle, scored a goal, could have had even more points against Bournemouth. Pretty good game from him. Van Dijk with the 10 points, which could have been more. And again, Kyle Walker with 12 points, which could have been a lot more as well. So yeah, Walker and Virgil van Dijk were two really underrated assets this week. So tripling up on Liverpool assets and Man City attacking assets were not the best decisions, or not the best outcomes, I should say. But the defenders in Walker and Virgil van Dijk were really, really good. Really sad times for those of you guys with Nathan Ake, who I think was a better player going into the week. But Walker has been pretty steady Eddie, basically, for Man City this season. I was playing pretty attackingly for I almost said Aston Villa there, for Man City this game week as well, and got 12 points in the end. It could have been more. I could have had another assist for Haaland, could have had another assist as well on top of that. So yeah, it could have been an even higher score this game week. But yeah, 4-3-3 formation, which is kind of rare, I guess, on the manager of the week. But still, 112 points without using a single transfer. That means you also have 2 transfers for the next game week, which we're going to talk about pretty soon. So that's really, really good. Saliba, Gabriel, double Arsenal defense is looking really nice at the moment. A lot of people are envious of that, me included, even though I might not bring in Saliba myself, but we'll talk about that towards the end of the video, like I mentioned. But all in all, massive green arrow, obviously, to 105k overall. Pretty good position to be in at this point of the season with 1,552 points and a game week rank of 26k in the world, basically, which is really, really, really nice for this game week. Also, really liking the bench in terms of the future game weeks. You have Areola, who's going to play in game week 29 at least. You have Bowen, who plays in 29, who I think is actually a pretty underrated asset. I've talked about that this week as well, that I think Bowen is sort of getting overlooked a bit, because I think he's going to be a lot better once Paquetá is back for West Ham. And they do play Burnley in game week 28 as well, which is really, really good. So I think Bowen is a pretty good asset. And Palmer, like I said, really wish I had him myself, especially if you can cover him for game week 26. He's going to be good in game 27 and game 28 especially. So yeah, I like the fact that you have him. And then finally you also have Pedro Porro, who is going to be back fit from injury not too long from now at least. So if you are looking to not free hit in game 29, he's going to be a really nice player to have there as well. So I think this team is really well set up for the future, and you still have all your chips left apart from the triple captaincy chip is what I was supposed to say. So you are in a pretty good position. So let's look at your next game week and see what you can do in terms of transfer moves and stuff, and how you can manage the next few game weeks, which are quite tricky, to be honest. So yeah, there are 2 different things you can do, and obviously you can go through the future with free hits game week 29 in mind, or you can go through the future with not free hitting in game week 29. And I think you're actually pretty well set up for the route where you don't free hit in 29. Usually I say that I prefer free hitting in 29, and that's mostly for my team, or not mostly for my team, but especially for my team without any Spurs assets, without many players for those game weeks. But this team can actually get to 8 players for game week 29 without using a hit. So with hits, you can actually get to about 10 players, which is going to be pretty nice for that game week. And you're pretty well set up for that game week without a free hit, I think. So you could do just Virgil van Dijk to Reguilon and have one more player playing in 29, one more player playing this game week as well. You can bench Darwin and have him for game week 27 against Nottingham Forest, which I think is a really nice option as well. And you can wait to do Darwin to Solanke in game week 28 as well. So I think you're in a pretty good position to do that. But if you don't want to do free hitting, if you want to go through with a free hitting game 29 in mind, and you really want to maximize your profits in the next few game weeks, you could go the other route and sell the players that do play in 29 who are not quite as good in the immediate future. Mainly someone like Pedro Porro, who is going to be a really good player if you're looking to not free hit in 29, but if you're free hitting in 29, you can just free hit him in anyway that game week, and you don't really need him that much beforehand. So you can do Pedro Porro to Aït-Nouri, and you can also do Gordon to Hwang Hee-chan with 2 transfers, obviously. That is possible. I think both Aït-Nouri and Hwang Hee-chan are really good options this week, as I'm going to talk about with my own team. So I think that's a pretty good option. But I think the Reguilon route is also pretty good. So You just have to look through your options for game 29 and what you prefer to do, and basically take a decision from there. You could obviously also do Van Dijk to Reguilon, and then on top of that do Gordon to someone else, like for example Bailey if you like him for game 29, and before that as well, or someone like Elanga if you want to go with a sort of a differential shout between 26 and 29, who plays in both game weeks. So you have a lot of options there as well. You could sell Gordon, you could keep Gordon. I don't know, he has a pretty good home fixture in game week 27, so maybe you want to keep him and keep your options open for as long as you can. Maybe you want to keep that second transfer free for as long as you can, because you don't want to transfer in a player for game week 29 in mind and then have him get injured in the next coming game week. So you kind of want to save your game week 29 transfers for as long as possible, basically. But either way, I think you can bring in Son next week potentially if you play your cards right, especially with selling Van Dijk or Pedro Porro, who are worth quite a lot of money depending on who you sell. You are in a pretty good position for the future game weeks. And personally, if I were to choose something like a path for you, either free hits 29 or not, I would probably still do free 29 and just maximize this game week with Aït-Nouri and Hwang Hee-chan, not worry about the likes of Pedro Porro and Gordon, and just leave them behind in the dust where they belong, basically. Not really, they're still pretty good players, but I think Aït-Nouri and Hee-chan are going to be better for the next few game weeks if you're free hitting in 29. And you also have the possibility of potentially Bournemouth and Wolves both going out of the FA Cup and then having a fixture in game 29 either way, and you still have enough players for game 29 in that regard. So I think you can maximize your 26 profits and still have a chance to have a team for game 29. Or if push comes to shove, you can just use your free hit in 29 and still be able to manage game 34 pretty easily, I think, without the free hit. So you're in a pretty good position. Quite like your team in general. Captaincy, I would go with Haaland. I think he's the best option. I think Saka's probably the second best option considering his form. But Watkins is also in consideration against Nottingham Forest and the form that he is in as well. So decent team. Really, decent rank as well. You're just a couple points behind me, which we'll get to pretty soon because you'll see my points pretty soon as well. Pretty good position in general. And good luck with your transfers if you're watching. Please let me know in the comment section if you're watching this still. I know a lot of people have just joined the league and then forgotten about the channel or not subscribed and stuff. So for any of you guys who want to be in the know when you are the manager of the week in the future, firstly, you need to become the manager of the week by joining the mini league with the league code B9JT0D. And also, you need to subscribe just to be sure that you know that week where you have the highest score that you'll be featured on the podcast. Either with me and Kevin on the podcast or in the team selection video like I'm doing right now for Colin Farfaro. So hopefully you get to have that chance in the future, and looking forward to see how many more subscribers I'll get from this video. But we'll see about that. Finally, let's move on to the main part of this video, or not really the main part, because I'm going to spend a lot more time on the previous parts than my actual GW26 plans, but this is the main reason for this video, basically talking about my decisions for this upcoming game week. And to be honest, it's sort of similar to what I proposed for the manager of the week, even though I've written Hwang rather than Hee-chan for Hwang Hee-chan as my transfer in. But basically, I do have 10 players playing, and the only player that I don't have playing is a defender. But I still am sort of leaning towards just doing an offensive transfer anyway. Maybe I'll do a -4 hit to bring in a defender. I'll talk about that in a bit of a second here, but basically, I really like Hwang Hee-chan. I know he's like the pick of the week, basically, and he's like the biggest bandwagon of all time, and everyone loves him now. But I've talked about this possibility for a long time. I think back in game week 20 when I did my wildcard, actually I did like a future planning sort of video where I look forward to game week 26, where I actually transferred in Hwang Hee-chan in that video. So I've been a huge fan of Hwang Hee-chan for a long time this season, and I had him as well in game week, I think from game week 16 to 19 I had him. And he blanked a couple game weeks, and then he had that massive score against Brentford, which made me really, really happy. Probably my best moment so far this season. So I really would like to have him back. It would really sting if a lot of other people had him and were happy with his points, and then I didn't have him. So maybe that's not the best way to play FPL. I think that's sort of thinking about like the worst possible outcomes and stuff. It's probably not that ideal when you want to do FPL transfers, but I just really like him, and I don't really like any defenders either that much in terms of selling. I don't really like selling my defenders either. Doughty obviously is one of my options to sell. He did get injured towards the end of the match against Liverpool, so maybe that will make me make that transfer a lot easier, but he obviously has the double game week in 28, so I am a bit reluctant to sell him as well for that game week. I could sell Virgil van Dijk, but I think Van Dijk to Senesi is something that I want to do in game week 28 to get Senesi's double game week in that game week. And I also want to have Virgil van Dijk against Nottingham Forest in game week 27 as well. So I'm sort of leaning more towards doing Doughty to Aït-Nouri if I was to do a defender transfer, because Aït-Nouri is going to be a really good player both before and after game week 29 as well. But like I mentioned in the free hit draft as well, I could go with Munoz rather than Aït-Nouri because he does double in game 34, but that would be really long-term planning and stuff. So I don't really think you can make plans for game 34 already, but you sort of can at the same time as well. But at least looking at players that have good fixtures before and after game 29, if you're free hitting in game 29 like I'm looking to do currently, that's perfectly viable. And Aït-Nouri is someone that could be really, really good in those game weeks. He's playing really attackingly lately. He's pretty nailed on with the Wolves team under Gary O'Neill. He's taken a lot of steps forward as a player this season. Wolves fans are raving about him as well. He's always been sort of like a tricky, nice little hidden gem, you could say, for Wolves. But this season he's actually stepped up and been a pretty good player in general as well, not just like a tricky, interesting player to watch. Like a lot of Wolves players under Gary O'Neill, who's a fantastic manager. So I'm pretty hyped about him as a prospect. I quite like Munoz as well, so I'm a bit 50-50 on those guys. But at the same time, it also would feel bad to sell Doughty, even though he's been terrible for me since I brought him in game week 24. But at the same time, that also makes it a bit easier because I can just sell him and just not worry about him anymore. Because, yeah, watching him is sort of fun because he's really, really lively. He's involved in a lot of what Luton do. But at the same time, Luton are just really bad and are really struggling currently as well. So, yeah, I wouldn't feel too sad about selling him. Obviously, I could sell Virgil van Dijk as well, but I would like to sell Van Dijk to Senesi at some point. I wouldn't sell Doughty to Senesi in game 28, for example. So I would sell someone with the immediate future in 26 and 27 in mind, and that's where Doughty doesn't have that big of a future really, because he doesn't play in 26 and 27. He doesn't have that good of a fixture either. So yeah, I'm leaning more towards doing Doughty to Aït-Nouri, which would obviously be for a -4 hit, which I hadn't. Would be for a -4 hit, which would sting, obviously, because I've done a lot of -4 hits lately and they haven't really worked out. So that makes me a bit hesitant. I could also obviously just skip the Diogo Jota to Hwang transfer and do Doughty to Aït-Nouri by itself. But Jota's going to go down in price a bunch because he's injured, and Hwang is going to go up in price a bunch because he's awesome and handsome and everything in between. And also I just really like to have Hwang against Sheffield United, which is the best fixture you can possibly have, potentially. Either that or Burnley at home or Burnley away are like the best fixtures to have. So I'd really like to have Hwang Hee-chan. I could potentially just keep it like that and have 10 outfield players, but that doesn't really sit right with me either. Might as well do a hit and have Aït-Nouri, who's going to play. He's going to play this week where Doughty doesn't play, and then Doughty's going to have the extra match in 28. So in total, I'll have the same amount of matches, and Aït-Nouri has Fulham at home in game week 28 as well, where Doughty has 2 away games to Crystal Palace and Bournemouth. So I think even in that game week, it's not that big of a difference. I think Doughty obviously has a better point potential in that game week, but I think Aït-Nouri could make it up for it, or make it up in this game week, because he plays Sheffield United at home and Fulham at home, basically, and Doughty plays Crystal Palace away and Bournemouth away, and I prefer Aït-Nouri as even more attacking fullback than Doughty in the end for a better team. So yeah, that's probably what I'm going to do, and just like not care about the double game week in 28 that much with Doughty, and just double up on Senesi and Solanke and let it be with that for game week 28. But yeah, that's basically my transfer plans pretty much. Going through my team, not that many dilemmas obviously, because we have 3 players on the bench who are not playing in Gusto, Diogo Jota and Virgil van Dijk, and on top of having Doughty who doesn't play either. So I'm going to play all my playing players apart from Dubravka, who's playing Arsenal away, so that's pretty easy to bench him for Areola, who plays Brentford at home. But in general, my team, pretty happy with it. Branthwaite playing against Brighton away. Probably not going to be a clean sheet there, but at the same time, Everton have kept clean sheets in games where I haven't expected them to do just that. So I'm pretty happy about Branthwaite in general as a player and finally being able to use him. Gabriel, I had in the free hit draft, so obviously I really like him. I always like Saka and Foden as well, who are also in the free hit draft. De Bruyne, he is a slight doubt still because he didn't play in the second game in the game of 25, but at this point I just can't sell him. I don't have the luxury to do that, basically. I would rather sell Jota, who I know is going to be out, rather than selling De Bruyne, who is going to be potentially out for this upcoming game. So De Bruyne I'm going to keep for this game week, and potentially also game week 27, depending on how he looks. Because I think Man City could do really well against Man United in game week 27, but going from De Bruyne to Son is going to be like the major bandwagon for game 27. I can tell already. So that is also something that would be really tempting for me, because Son is playing Crystal Palace at home. So I could potentially do that as well. Garnacho against Fulham at home, really happy about that. Having Garnacho is pretty nice for me. I quite like him as a player. That's why I brought him in game week 21 or whatever. And it could have gone so much better if I just kept him in my starting lineup for, what was it, game week 33 when he had that massive score. But I benched him. I did another bad decision, which I've done a couple of the last few weeks. But having him in my team is not a bad decision, because he is a pretty good player. Really lively. Playing 90 minutes every game now for Man United, who keeps scoring goals left and right. He had another major chance to score in his past game as well. So I quite like Garnacho against Fulham at home. Hold on, my captaincy shout, who I mentioned a couple times already. Watkins against Nottingham Forest at home. I already talked about him. And Solanke against Man City is not the best fixture, which is why I'm leaning towards doing the Jota to Hwang move and benching Senesi, I should say. I misspoke. Solanke for that game week against Man City. But yeah, not entirely sure. Only have one free transfer. Doing minus for hit is not really ideal, but at the same time, I could potentially do it just to have Hwang Hee-chan on top of having 11 players playing. So those are basically my thoughts for game 26. Still going to free hit in game 29, most likely, unless there are a lot of cup upsets and I have more than enough players to go through game 29 without a free hit. But yeah, I quite like that tactic. And I also have gone through like my plans, like obviously it's so far into the future, game week 34, but I've gone through game week 26 all the way through game week 34 and my potential moves in those game weeks. And I think I can handle game week 34 pretty easily and have a really good team for game week 30, 31, 32, 33, and all that stuff as well. A better team than I would have if I was going to do transfers in game 26, 27, 28 to fit in 9 or 10 players for game week 29. So pretty happy with my team in general. Pretty happy with my rank, 44k. Could have been a lot better as well in the last few game weeks, but yeah, I've still gotten a green arrow since my wildcard in game week 20, so that's all that matters in the end. And I'm 31 points behind the top 10k. Hopefully I can close the gap and be able to finish the season on a high, because we are at the final round of the season. Looking forward to it. This is where you can get a lot of good ranks and green arrows the last few game weeks, so looking forward to that, and looking forward to game 26 as well, after a pretty disappointing for a lot of people game 25, which was a pretty good game for me in the end. But yeah, with that, I'm going to leave you on that note, and thank you for watching the video, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.